Hi, thank you for having me here today. My name is CJ. I'm the co-founder of Snapsheet. We provide virtual appraisal services to insurance carriers in the United States, and we also provide our technology software platform. And today I'm going to talk about the bionic evolution. So basically, this is the concept of leveraging people and technology together in order to automate the claims process, automate basically any workflow, and actually inject machine learning, artificial intelligence, metrics, reporting directly into your processes today. So I will talk a little bit about what we see in the industry, how our platform actually works, and just try to give some basic design principles that you could take with you as you leave here and go continue to advance your organizations. So the first thing here, a little silly, but a lot of times we kind of get caught up in just looking at one little feature, right? Like I want to use AI to automate a repair estimate on a car. It's like, oh, yay, like everything is great. Our whole business is going to run automated, but that doesn't solve all of your problems. And what ends up happening, and what we see in most insurance carriers, as innovation really starts to take off, you end up launching a bunch of different separate systems. And you just say, oh, it's only one system for this pilot. It won't last long. We'll integrate it into our platform. But that never happens. So what you think is a kind of a genie in the bottle turns out to just be Frankenstein. And this probably looks familiar if you work for an insurance carrier, but yes, you have like 10 different systems that everybody uses all day, right? I mean, you have a first notice system that's got an app, you've got a broker, you've got a claim system, maybe you have like a business process tool, it goes back into your claim system. Then you want to determine the severity, you can automate that, that's great, but you also have to have a claim app. You have to have an estimatic system to be able to value the asset. Then you have to deal with shops. So, if a car gets repaired, it has to completely go out of your system. And you have to hand off your customer and all of your information to a body shop. And then they have their own technology. And then maybe you have like some cool chatbots that you've built or some automated communication, which is a separate system, of course, right? So now your team has to manage all of this. And then when you're done, you have to actually integrate with your treasury system. You have to issue checks. And we have a huge problem with that in the United States. We spend $500 billion a year, $500 billion of claims are paid with paper checks in the United States. So we're doing a wonderful job of innovating, right? Like, not really. We have a couple little flashy pieces of technology that exist, but it doesn't solve the real problems that people face. And we're all stuck kind of with this Frankenstein. So, and it's, automation. And, everybody involved like really starts to feel this pain then, right? I mean, so you've got third-party vendors, you're duplicating data. So a big way to combat duplicating data right now has been using RPA, right? Robotic process automation. Someone like a UiPath or a Blue Prism. That's just a plug to get you to the next phase. But as we all do in insurance, is your plug becomes your system moving forward. So everybody becomes dependent on the RPA. But that doesn't solve the long-term problem. You actually end up having your adjusters and your file handlers gluing all of the information together. So the central intelligence is actually the centrally intelligent part of the claim, which is your adjuster. They bear the burden of all of this innovation that you're trying to do because they have to coordinate every piece of these claims. The process ends up being pretty broken. People have to jump between systems. Customers get an inconsistent workflow. And then finally, you really struggle to understand what you're providing. So the metrics are not integrated, the technology is not integrated, and this leads to higher costs. Even though it's cooler technology, it might take some cost out of part of the system. Overall, it's more expensive. Completely lacking real automation, and then poor customer experience. So I mean, like, why are we doing all of this innovation in the insurance industry? I mean, what's the point? And there's only a couple of points, right? It's to decrease your costs, make customers happier, be legally compliant while you do it, right? So I think we're kind of missing the point when we're doing a lot of this innovation because we're just trying to throw stuff and test and build, and everyone says it, fail fast, right? You don't want to fail fast, you want to fail smart, right? And you don't want to fail, you want to iterate until you succeed. And having a whole bunch of different projects and a lot of different science projects going on in the background in an innovation lab, that doesn't actually help your business or your operations. And we just see this across the whole entire world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some steps to actually get towards an applicable, useful, bionic type of organization. Again, bionic is fusing humans and machines together to be more effective and more efficient. So there's a little bit about Snapsheet, just so you all know a little bit more about why I'm up here. We actually started as a consumer company called Body Shop Bids, which was just a mobile app for customers to submit photos and get estimates from multiple body shops. We started that in 2011. Insurtech was not a sector until like 2015, so we were like on an island for 4 years. So we started actually like advertising on TV and on the radio and trying to get consumers. Obviously the economics didn't work out, but we noticed that 90% of the repairs were going through insurance. So we got asked by a few insurance carriers to take our customer experience workflow and move it into the insurance sector. So we had to start hiring our own appraisers. We had to start learning about local regulations. We had to start learning about claims processes and workflows. And we took this consumer model and pivoted it into the insurance model, and that's when Snapsheet was born. So we didn't come into this industry. We didn't even know the industry existed aside from having car insurance in 2011. And Insurtech was not hot or sexy or even there. We just got kind of pulled into the industry from the industry. And I think that's how we've been a little bit different because by doing this, we actually built a large service organization. So we have over 500 employees processing insurance claims today. So this year we'll do about, last year we did about 600,000 estimates completely virtually, nobody in the field, all using technology, but also using people. Bionic people. We don't like grow magic people. We just give them better technology, and then they're able to process claims extremely efficiently. So we're doing almost 1 million claims a year with probably about 250 auto appraisers. We work with 75 insurance carriers across the world, and we've raised $72 million so far in order to be able to continue to invest and grow the software platform. So by working with the 75 carriers, though, we've really started to understand why insurance carriers haven't been able to achieve this, because it seems so logical, and it seems like why not? We all want to do all this. We're all here. Why isn't it happening? And so we've been able to see that kind of from the inside out. And so what I'll talk about right now is just some of these principles that you can take away in your own organizations when you're looking at getting into Bionic, which is just doing further automation, getting into straight-through processing. So first thing is removing the friction from the entire ecosystem, not just from the customer. So you might have a great customer experience, but if people are running around in the background, handing off paper files or jumping between systems, you haven't really removed the friction. And also you have third-party vendors that engage with your customers. You have to really think of how you're going to tie all of these people together. You have to move steps from people to the machine. Sounds very straightforward, but it's extremely, extremely complicated. You have to be able to innovate without renovating, right? So a lot of the system integrators, and we had some talk up here earlier, they'll want you to take apart all of your databases and put all your databases back together and have the exact same mess that you have today, just with a new front end on it. And there's a lot better ways that you can actually change without having to do a bunch of IT capital work that might take 3 years and has no guaranteed outcome. Once you do all of that and you have a new system, you actually really can leverage the power of AI, but you don't want to just go after the coolest, newest thing that machine learning promises. You want to pick up the trash. AI is really good at picking up trash and finding issues and helping you make sure you don't make those same issues again. But it's also good for exploring the stars and finding all sorts of cool initiatives and things that really help transform your business. And then lastly, once you do all this, you'll be able to take advantage of the Bionic economics, which are very valuable for everybody. So first thing, these are very ugly slides because I made them. So removing the friction from the ecosystem. So what we started learning with the 75 insurance carriers is every single one of them had a different claim system. Every single one of them had different processes. And every single one of them wanted their customers treated a different way because claims is a core competency of every single insurance carrier. But they didn't want to standardize. They didn't want to adhere to our platform. So we had to adapt to their platforms. And what that led us to was a purely true omni-channel communication with every constituent involved. So that means being able to input claims from any mechanism. So that's not just a web, or your own back-end system from the phone. Mobile web, mobile app, email, SMS, fax, if that still happens, post, mail. Being able to categorize that with different user specifications, different carrier specifications, different service level agreements, different response agreements, and then a bunch of different claim characteristics that you can kind of capture from the information. So what the system is doing is actually reading through every single piece of information we get from an insurance carrier when they send us a request to do an appraisal, and it's making an automatic determination of what it should do. So if the car comes in and it says, hey, this is a 2019 Toyota, and it got rear-ended, it's probably not a total loss. So the system looks at that and says, this is probably not a total loss. It just sends it to a fast track team. And actually what it does is it automatically text messages the customer and asks the customer if they'd like to opt in to using the mobile app. And if they say yes, it automatically texts them the app. And then it walks the customer through the process. And once they're done, then it automatically sends it to an appraiser. Once that's done, it automatically sends the estimate back to the customer. And then through our payment platform, it launches the payment. So that's a one-touch claim that we're able to do with this entire system. But you can't just rely on like a mobile app. So you have to be able to input information from an SMS, from an email. So think of your own claim systems if you manage a carrier out there. If somebody emails, typically that email doesn't go straight into your file. You actually have to look at it, transcribe it, move the information back and forth. Just email alone is enough to show you that you can't automate your claims today, right? You have to have all of this integrated into one system. So you have to be able to augment your staff with automation. So they have to have all these tools in order to be able to be augmented. Then you have to have a very robust system to actually distribute the work to your workforce and give them the tools to be able to truly be bionic. So in our organization, all of our work is automatically distributed to the whole entire workforce, and all of our estimators, about 250 of them, they all work from home. They all work remote. None of them are in the office. So they're all just sitting in a software platform, getting work distributed to them based on all these rules that we've set up. And then it's guiding them through the appraisal process and making sure they don't make any mistakes. And then it's automatically distributing that work back and forth. And if somebody goes home sick, if they feel ill, the system just rebalances all of the work. It also rebalances the work based on how long we think it should take to do the estimate or any other variable. So really having a lot of horsepower there getting into Bionic. And then having dynamic integrations. So we integrate with all the estimating platforms, the rental companies, like pretty much any big vendor. You've got to go in and do really intelligent integrations with them. Then your system becomes the system of record. You're driving the process from your perspective down into every other vendor and dictating the process. So number 2 is actually moving steps from the human to the machine. And what we like to say in our organization is we don't always do machine learning. We've built a learning machine. So our system is always listening to what the humans are doing and what the customers are doing, learning from it, and optimizing the process based on it. And what we're able to do is look at the metrics. We have very detailed metrics and reporting on every single thing that's going on, and then start to build in more automation into the machine, more AI, more chatbotting, visual recognition, but actually using it for a purpose. So we don't use visual recognition today to try to write an estimate on a vehicle. It only takes us about 10 minutes to write an estimate. That's not the largest expense that we have. We use AI and visual recognition to triage the claim. So when we get the photos in, we're doing 2 things. One thing is the mobile app is that, well, here, I'll give you an example. So the mobile app is actually listening as the customer takes the photos, right? So it's looking at the photos, and it's listening to the facts of loss. So it's listening to the assignment that we got from the insurance carrier. So what we used to do, this is an example of moving more to the machine. We'd get photos, we'd look at the photos, a human would triage the photos, and if we thought the car was, let's say, a total loss, we'd call the customer, and we'd ask them to submit more photos. It was a terrible experience. It added about 2 days of cycle time. So we sit around 3 days cycle time today, so it went up to 5. So what did we do? We said, okay, we've got this powerful learning machine. We've got tons of photos, so let's build some visual recognition to determine basic attributes of the photos when they're coming in. Do we think it's a lot of damage or not a lot of damage? Not like how much, but is it a lot or a little? Based on the facts of loss, is it an old car, a new car, a bunch of different attributes. And then as the customer is taking the photos, the AI is running in the background, and if it triggers and it gets 80% likely, the app just starts asking them to take more photos. They have no idea it's happening. The typical customer submits 6 photos. If we think it's a total, they submit 20 photos. But the customer has absolutely no idea. Nobody on our team has any idea. The system's just talking to the customer and asking for more information, and then puts that information straight into our file, and then triages it to a different group, a specialized group for total loss vehicles. So this is just one example of where we took a problem, we saw the metrics that said cycle times were longer in this segment of claims. We looked into it. We found out it's because we were reaching back out to the customer to try to get photos when it was a total loss. We put our creative brains on trying to figure out what data we had, how we could apply it, and came up with a pretty elegant solution. So now our total loss vehicles have the exact same cycle time as a repairable vehicle. So innovating without renovating, this is actually a very hard one, because you all as carriers know your systems and you know how many different systems you have. And it seems almost impossible to try to get the machine learning and the analytics and the data and all of your systems to tie together. So if your CEO comes and says to you, I want a touchless claim, you can probably hack one together in like a very great, perfect little workflow, right? There's probably like 5-10% of your claims that you could really figure out how to do that for. But the rest of them, it's not really going to happen. So there are people out there, and this Snapsheet does this as well. You have the ability now with cloud-based computing to have a cloud platform that can sit on top of your existing systems without redesigning your systems, without changing the database at all, just building simple APIs, and have a completely new software platform that gives you all this data and unifies all of your systems together. So you have separate systems of record, separate databases that you would use in those old systems, but everybody can use a new software platform on top of it. And that's one of the best ways to really try to make a large change. And what this does with your technical debt, and we heard it earlier, that most IT organizations say no, or yes, but, or they just don't do anything at all. With a cloud-based platform, you're not dependent on your IT organization anymore. So like our cloud platform, insurance carriers get recommendations of the roadmap and the features, but they don't determine what goes into the platform. We give like specific engineering time to help customize certain things, but it's really, you're letting go of a lot of control. But your IT organization has no more control, and the business has all the control. Claims follow a very consistent workflow. There's a first notice, there's an investigation, you set some reserving, you determine liability, you evaluate, you negotiate, and you settle, and you pay it. So how you mix that together in a claim should not require any IT work. This is all just configurable, right? So the way the new platforms are all built is that you have these modules, right? A workflow module, a customer engagement module, a third-party management module. And you'll notice a lot of the different, and I apologize, this is in English, but a lot of the different features in there actually go across all of the different modules, right? So once you have a good communication tool, once you have a good workflow tool, once you have the rules engines that you want, once you have a good view and layout set up, when you know what information you're actually asking for, like doing a claim is literally just determining coverage and asking for information, right? So IT does not need to be involved in that. You just need to configure a very flexible system in order to process claims that way. So I think it's a lot more attainable than most people think. Again, though, this is actually truly getting to a transformation in the organization versus just taking a piece like saying, I want an automated chatbot. But great, that's going to work for whatever you plug that automated chatbot in. If you really want your whole organization to be completely digital, to do the digital transformation, you have to have all of these components together in one single system. You can't have people going to multiple systems. So the next thing is using AI. Now, so once you have a full-on system, or even if you have just some capabilities to do some AI today, I mean, a really good thing for AI to do is pick up trash, right? I mean, so just some example, like this is not a great slide, but we've been able to increase efficiency, with doing more complex claims and everything. But that's just because we use machine learning basically to monitor all of the dirty stuff. Like when something breaks or fails, we look at why, right? When we're trying to launch a new process, we'll put some machine learning in there to try to help us like augment. We're at such a large scale that you can't just look at every single claim. So you have to understand the trends of the claims, and you can learn a lot of information just by using using some AI and machine learning behind that. But also, trying to go deeper with it, trying to go further. So once you have the platform, the AI really can help enable you to do a lot of automation. I mean, a lot of it is automated communication. It's understanding the information that you have. It's tying a bunch of your vendors together. Again, you're probably hearing a lot of consistent themes coming out of my mouth, but that's just what claims are. There is like just a finite world of problems that you're trying to solve. All of the tools are out there, but the ability to put them together and actually use them in practice are really complicated. So these are just some of the innovations that we've been able to throw into our platform by evolving it over the years, like natural language processing, predictive customer guidance that I mentioned, dynamic photo overlays, parts recognition. We do use visual recognition for identifying parts, but again, we're not using it to do the estimate. We just look at the parts and then we search all of the parts in the parts databases, right? Because that takes about 10 to 15 minutes if you're writing an estimate for someone to search the parts. So we automated that portion of the claim. Instead of trying to write a cool estimate and do something great that increased our valuation or made our board happy, we actually have to process claims and try to do it really efficiently. So there's a lot of really great things you can do, and AI is very good and well suited for it. And then lastly, taking advantage of the bionic economics. So economies of scale. The economics of scale here. Filling capacity with your demand. So having a platform like this allows you to really truly distribute work very effectively. And that can help you control your expenses, optimize your people, and automate where claims can be automated. Speed. A quick and continuous learning cycle, no real dependence on a large IT organization or really big multi-year projects, just the ability to have data, feed it back into itself, monitor it, and make decisions and make quick changes off of it. And then, lower and shift all of your costs to variable costs. So, there's in the future, there will not be as big of a need to have these, huge capital-intensive projects, own your own mainframe databases, have a ton of staff just on staff all the time, because that's all symptoms of kind of inefficiency. And when you can really optimize how the work is flowing, and the computer's actually helping aid your employees, you get a more variable cost structure. You can outsource a lot more effectively to your vendors because you can monitor your vendors' metrics real time and be able to track their performance versus your team's performance and determine when it's better to use a third party or when it's better to bring stuff in-house. So again, just to kind of summarize here, these design principles, when you take these all holistically, this is just a little bit more than I think some of the, admittedly more cool stuff that you saw earlier and over the course of the last 2 days. This is kind of more of the boring, down-to-earth, we're inside of insurance carriers all the time, looking at their claims systems, looking at their claims management systems, looking at all of their underwriting systems, their financial systems, and we're redesigning them with them in the cloud. These are just the realities of what happens when you get to that next phase, when your leadership team is no longer wowed by a chatbot or by an automated estimate, when they're like, okay, where's the value? Now I have one more system. These are the steps that I think everyone will evolve to in the future. But Frankenstein doesn't just turn into Prince Charming. It's really hard. You got to kiss a lot of frogs if you really want a Prince Charming. So you just have to be honest about where you are with your systems and what you can actually realistically do and how you're going to get there in the future. So you can't just think that it's going to be, tomorrow you flip on a light switch, you turn on AI, and AI solves your problems. It's a long process. There's a lot of good experts that are starting to come out and be able to help with this. But it's doable. It's just it's not very easy and it's not very pretty. So that's my presentation. Thank you.